It is blessed to be alive. It is blessed to have this nice weather. Right now, it is nice to me because it is 78 degrees outside. I do believe that it is going to get into the 90s today, so I am not so much a fan of the 90-degree weather. But what I will say to you is that, you know, I'm grateful to still be alive, to know that I'm hot. You know, and this morning we're still talking about Did My Heart Love Till Now, toxic relationship series, and we're still dealing with forgiveness. I had to make sure I went onto my own Wi-Fi with my carrier. So today we're still talking about forgiveness, and forgiveness is really, really big. And on yesterday, as some of you have pointed out, that forgiveness is very powerful. Our friend Onika Greer, she pointed out that forgiveness is very powerful because it enables you to move on with your life. It enables you to get to the next phase of who you are and who you need to be if you forgive. And I wish I could play music like you used to on Facebook, where they don't take your music out. They now have an algorithm that whether you're praise dancing, whether you're doing whatever it is, if you have music, they definitely take it out. But it's very amazing to me how I watched a video this morning of a wife dancing with her mate and she had all kind of music at the wedding reception, and she's dancing, and they're allowing the music to be, you know, played. I really don't understand how they're doing it or what they're doing, but I'm definitely going to send me a little email today, because sometimes having that morning song, that opening song, it encourages someone. It may get somebody through the next level. They may have never thought about the song, or they may have never heard the song before, or, you know, and they want something new, something great in their life, and that was like, oh wow, that song is perfect. So we want to still be forgiving, and we want to understand that forgiveness is super, super big. And I do have my notes, but due to the fact that I'm driving, I definitely can't look down at them, because I do want to get to work on time, because I have a few things to do, and it's a full day. But I'm grateful to God that I have a full day. So as we're talking about forgiveness, we need to understand that nobody is perfect. And we talked about that on yesterday, that while we know no one is perfect, it is not good for any of us to intentionally hurt someone. And a lot of times when people do things for them or to make them happy, it's not necessarily about hurting someone else. It's about getting to the next phase of their own life. And I read a meme last night, and it said, I believe it said, it was on the vein of wanting to be happy, and it was definitely okay to choose you. And I've been saying that since I started this series. I think it's going on, oh my God, I can't even remember when I started this. I think maybe 3 months now. I'm not really sure, but I'll go back and check the time frame. But I've definitely been saying it's definitely okay to choose you. It's definitely okay to make sure that you're all right. But in choosing you, you have to get yourself to that forgiving place, and to that place of giving out forgiveness and forgiving yourself 100%. I know a lot of us sometimes feel like, you know, it's not really necessary for me to forgive because I didn't do anything wrong. But sometimes you have to forgive simply in the vein of making sure that you are making sure that you are definitely doing the best thing for you. So on the topic of choosing yourself, what do you do when you've made the decision to put yourself first and leave a toxic relationship, and the person you left is still trying to manipulate you? Manipulate you, make you feel guilty, or they don't respect the fact that you want to move on. Well, you know what? I'm a firm believer you have to teach people how to treat you. And you're like, what? Yes, you have to teach people how to treat you. And sometimes in order for people to actually get the fact that you've moved on and that you've made the decision, and you can't guilt trip me and you can't manipulate me, and they seem as though they don't respect your decision, to me, what that is saying is, I shouldn't make it so black and white. But for me, what that says is you don't respect my decision making at all, period. And you never did. Because if you did and you understood that I make wise choices, this was a wise choice for me. this was the choice that I went to God for. And if you went to God and God said this is not what you need to be in, because some of us sometimes, first of all, need to forgive ourselves for most definitely remaining in things that God said it's time to go. That's the first thing. We have to definitely do that. Then the next thing we have to do is, after we move on from things that God has already told us to move on from, we have to get to a place where we understand that people are not going to be happy when you choose you. They're not going to be ecstatic when you realize, I'm sorry guys, I hate when I do this, that they're not going to be ecstatic that you chose yourself, or that you made yourself a priority, because they want to be the priority, and that shows that they're selfish. And they may be calling you selfish because you decided to choose you, but at the end of the day, you can't choose anybody else. You know, you can't choose anybody else. You have to choose to live, and you have to choose to live whole. So the best thing I would suggest for you to do is, there has to be a time of separation. When people go through something and the relationship is now over, people think, oh, we could just be friends. Not necessarily, not always. You can't do that. Sometimes you have to just typically move all the way on and keep it moving. And when I say move all the way on, I mean you have to get into your life, get into the things that you're doing, and somewhere down the line, after the separation of time of not seeing one another, not talking to one another, you may be able to be cordial enough to say, hey, how are you? You know, in the beginning, what people are always trying to do is they're trying to get their point across and make sure you do things their way. So with that being said, you may want to just get to the place where you say, you know what, we're not going to be able to do this. I'm not going to talk to you for a minute. You're not going to talk to me for a minute. And that's how it's going to be. I'm not advising anybody to change your phone numbers. I'm not advising anybody to, you know, like turn your life all the way upside down just to get away from somebody, unless it has to be that way, unless it is a domestic situation and you fear for your life. But if it's just one of those things where it's toxic and the person's just trying to be manipulative because they just want to get back in your life, or being with you may be a benefit for them because they don't have nowhere else to be. You know, there's this new term going around, and I tickle myself every time I hear it. It's called hobosexual. It's the person who has nowhere to live, so they definitely don't want to leave the relationship, so they try to do any and everything. And then once they get on their feet, they leave you high and dry. So you don't even want that to be the case, even though it may not be. But you have to definitely look out for self, and you have to definitely have a time of separation. There has to be a period of separation, period. You know, no running back to having dinner out or this, that, the other, or being intimate. None of that stuff, because that clouds a lot of judgment. You know, and people say, oh, well, you know, you should be able to do what you want to do because you're grown. Yes, I truly believe that. Yes, you should be able to do what you want to do because you're grown, but you shouldn't do it at the expense of someone else's feelings. So with that being said, Chanel, what I would do is I would cut all ties for a while. And when I say cut all ties, I definitely mean that. Let the person know, you know, I'm not being mean, but right now I'm not responding to none of your texts. We're not going nowhere. We're not doing nothing. It's just not what's feasible for me right now. You know, my life is very important to me, and God is putting me in a different place, because sometimes we get into relationships and we think that we have to satisfy the other person. We think that this is love, and it's really not love. It's infatuation, or it's what do they call it? Not complacency, but it's being comfortable. You're comfortable with what you know. You're comfortable with the dysfunction. You're comfortable with the craziness of it all. So you just stay in it, and that's not good. So personally, I would say cut all ties, and cut them for a good while. You know, there's no need to have any conversation. You know, and it's not that you're being cold-hearted. It's just that you have to do what's best for you. And if you're not in a place to let it go, that you feel like they're guilting you, or they're manipulating you, or they're causing you stress or strain, you have to cut it off totally. Now, if you are in a place where you are separating and you are married and you have children, there's going to have to be a different vein that you have to definitely do this in. You have to do it where you get to the point that you make an agreement that it's most definitely only going to be about the children when we're talking. It's not going to be about me holding you to your wrongs, you holding me to my wrongs. It's going to have to definitely be about, you know, the child. And then, you know, I was talking to someone, and they were telling me how they're going through a divorce and they don't understand why their spouse is extremely nasty. and extremely nasty to the point where they're disrespecting their time. They're not even being hospitable. Like if they'll say, oh, well, 5 p.m. is the time we're going to meet up to exchange with the children, they're just like, okay, whatever. Like your time is not even valuable. But when we were together, our time was valuable and you didn't do that. But now that we're not, now that we've both chosen to choose ourselves and versus to being in a team, you now want to be nasty. And I do not think that that's good. I think that we should all treat everybody the way we want to be treated. If you don't want to be treated nastily, if you're separating and divorcing, you need to be the type of person that you want the person to treat you as such. And I say that with such strong conviction because I just really think that it doesn't have to be nasty. I don't think that people should have to feel like, you know, they are on pins and needles when they need to be around you, or they have to dumb themselves down or act as though you are not nasty or take the brunt of everything. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm one of those people who will take the brunt of everything. I'll say, okay, you know what? It's all on me. You know what? It doesn't matter what you did. It's all on me. That's the way it is. Call it a day. That's who I am, because my thing is, and what my therapist said was so funny. He said, wow, that's really big. That's what people don't understand is when one person in a relationship says, I'm just going to take it all, and it doesn't matter. Say whatever you want to say. It can all be my fault. I'll just take it all. I'll take all the blame. I'll take all the hurt. I'll take everything that's associated with who we are. You can put it all on me. That's big, and it speaks volumes, and it speaks volumes for why the person just wants to leave. It's like, you know, I'll just be the bad person. It doesn't even matter to me, just to get away, just to have a peace of mind, because you only get one life. You know, there was one time going around with all the soap operas out, and I haven't watched soap operas in years, but it was something about, you know, you get one life to live because you're young and restless, and, you know, as the world turns, these are the days of our lives. I don't really remember it, but I remember the soap operas, and sometimes that's what it's definitely like. So what happens when you're unforgiving, or when you feel like you want everything to go your way? You will do that. You'll be manipulative. And, you know, but if you're married, I'm telling you, you're going to have to find a way to associate yourselves for the children. And you're going to have to do that in a way that the children understand that you're both adults. And one thing I don't want to happen, whether you're married or single or however you are, and you have children involved in a breakup, you have to make sure that you're not pulling your children into your situation, even though the children are a part of the situation that's breaking up or folding or not being there. You have to most definitely keep the kids out of it. I'm getting emotional because children are they learn by our behaviors. And that when I say they learn by our behaviors, if you argue a lot, you know, and you watch your children interact, you'll see yourselves. You'll see yourself after a while. You'll be like, wait a minute, why is he doing that? Why is she arguing like that? You know, they'll start picking up your traits in an argument over something as simple as I need a spoon, and their sibling might have took the spoon. And it's still another spoon, but they wanted that spoon. But it goes into this whole big mess, and it's a petty argument. And then you have to look at yourself and ask yourself, was I doing that? Was I having petty arguments? So in this, what I'm trying to say is we have to definitely be forgiving, and we have to most definitely keep the children out of it. Don't involve them in, oh, well, what did your mom do? Well, who was your dad with? Or, well, where did you guys go? Like, some things are not important. If you want peace in your life and you want to move on and you want to be blessed of the Lord, you have to get to the place that you want to do that. You have to get to the place that you want to heal wholeheartedly. And once you heal wholeheartedly, there's nothing nobody can do to you, because the thing about unforgiveness is when you're in an unforgiving place, what it will do is it will cause you to be bitter and nasty, and you'll be finding yourself in places thinking that you're perfect and you're not. And then what unforgiveness does is it makes everybody around you uncomfortable, because as soon as you open your mouth, that's what the conversation is about. It hasn't moved on. It hasn't moved on. It hasn't moved on from your hurt. It hasn't moved on from your anger. But you have to forgive, and you're not forgiving the person simply because that's what we're saying to do. You're forgiving the person so that you can get past it. And you're forgiving yourself so that you can live. You know, because how many of us realize that sometimes somebody has done something and you're thinking about it and thinking about it, well, they'll never get to do that to me again because I'm going to forgive, but I'm not going to forget. No, I want you to forgive and I want you to forget. I mean, that's one of those things that I've taught before. You know, I really think that you need to forget. You don't need to put yourself in the same situation, but you don't have to keep holding the person accountable to something that they tried to rectify. And then you have to make sure that you understanding No, I don't think that I'm sorry, I'm going back to Chanel's question. I don't think that the person is not being held for their responsibility for their actions if you move on and keep it moving. Let me know what you actually mean and what you're referring to, and then I can go back to your question one more time, because it is a healthy option to choose you. It is a healthy option to not be bothered, you know, because that's very healthy when you don't want to be caught in situations where you're arguing all the time. So you definitely have the ability to move on without even... Oh, it's not a healthy option taking all the blame, but excuse me, for the type of person that I am, I don't mind confrontation, but the reason I suggest sometimes for some people just to take that take on all the blame like I do, no, it is not a healthy option to do that. But sometimes what it will do is it will free you. And when I say free you, it's not that the other person will take responsibility for their actions, because you don't really need them to take responsibility for their actions, because for one, you chose yourself and you chose to move on with your life in the vein that your life is important to you. But on top of that, what you have to remember is they are not the issue anymore. So you're choosing you. So whether they take responsibility for their actions or not, it really shouldn't matter. You know, you should get to the place where you know that because God says, vengeance is mine, I will repay, that God is going to handle that for you. And if you are a child of God, like most of us are, God will, when God gets somebody, he gets them. Can't nobody get nobody like God can get them. So it doesn't make any sense for us to feel as though we have to interject our powers on anybody, or we want them to suffer, or we want them to own up to what they've done. They don't ever have to own up to it. Now, it may be frustrating, yes, because for me, it's frustrating, you know, when people don't own up to what they've done and they're only trying to hold you accountable for what you've done, as if it's the only thing that's important. But what you have to remember is God is always watching. And that's one of the things that we have to get to the place of not being so impatient with God. We don't have any patience when it comes to God and what God will do for us. We want to say that I believe God and I believe in his word and I believe God is going to do it. But when it comes to revenge, or when it comes to someone getting what they deserve, we want to act like we need to see it. It needs to be immediate. And God, you are not listening. No, move on with your life and just live. You have to live. You know, the song is in my head right now. All I keep hearing is I'm saying live, is look and live, my brother, live. Look to Jesus Christ and live. It's according to his word. Hallelujah. If you only just look and live. We have to look and live. Like, yo, God is going to get them in the meantime. Even if they don't take responsibility for their actions, you know what? It's going to come a time, because like we always say, you shall reap what you sow. You will reap what you sow, and you will reap it in a way that maybe only you and God know that you're doing it. But my sister Minima and I have a strong thought and affirmation of, there are times when things happen and we be like, I know exactly why this is happening, because I did thus and so. And that's why some things happen, and the person will know, you know, why things are happening to them, even if they don't own up to what they've done. You can't sit around waiting for them to get got. You know what I'm saying? You got too much to do. God has a plan for you. God has a plan for your destiny. That's why for me, I've taken it upon myself, no matter what I've done, you know, I have to get to that place of forgiving me, because I found out that I am my hardest critic because I have control issues. I want to control everything. I want to control when I forgive myself. I want to control when the forgiveness is good. I want to control when I'll be free. I want to control when the other person should be free. And it doesn't work like that. You know, it doesn't work like that. So I'm working on that. I'm working on the fact of, you know, if I'm feeling weak, that I can just say, you know what, if I have my good friends, I have great friends, that I can say, you know what, right now, I just don't, I'm not myself right now. I'm just not feeling it. And they'll be like, okay, no problem. Or, you know, I may need to cry, get that out. But you have to do that. You have to find yourself in a place that you feel secure and that is trusted, and not want to, you know, just hold everything in. So that's what that part comes in with the forgiveness. When you start holding stuff in, it starts to affect your body. And you're saying to yourself, okay, how do you know? Well, I tell you, every time I come to you, I get more and more transparent. And I don't have a problem being transparent. I just have a problem being transparent. And then people think they're going to throw it in my face, thinking that I don't have enough gumption to tell you, you know, that I do have discernment and I do pray and that God is able, and that sometimes he shows me you, but I don't even tell you about you. But I'm learning to be more and more transparent and not care. Because I realize that the more transparent you are, and the more forgiving you are, and the more you tell your own story and your own testimony, the enemy can't hold nothing against you. He can't hold nothing over your head. So wherein the enemy may think that he has you in bondage because you're trying to hide behind something, stop hiding. Just let it out. You know what? I did this and so. You know, I repented, I'm sorry, and this was the outcome, and I'll let you guys know when I reap what I've sown. You know, and you don't even have to necessarily do that. I'm just saying it in a way where if you're going to be transparent, just be transparent. But I really feel like people are walking around in this unforgiving state, thinking they got it going on, and we got these ugly hearts that look like black soot and dust. You know, if you've ever watched the show Once Upon a Time, it tells you the fairy tales of Disney. And what people don't know is when Disney first created the fairy tales were very dark. The fairy tales were actually adult fairy tales, and they are more like they are on the show Once Upon a Time on ABC, whatever ABC is for your where you live. And that's the way the fairy tales really were. They weren't as cookie cutter when we watch them in the cartoon version. So when you look at Cinderella, and you look at the fact of how her stepmother treated her, that was done intentionally because she was the heir to something. So sometimes the enemy will get involved with you because you're the heir to something. And that's what Cinderella was. She was the heir to something. And the stepmother took it and squandered her inheritance. But God saw fit. I always can get a word. I can get a word out of Disney. My daughter's on here and she better not say a word. You know, God saw fit in the writers of Cinderella and said, you know what, even though this is what they did, I'm going to bring you up to the next level. So for one, Cinderella had such a forgiving heart with all that was happening to her. You know, she was forgiving. And that's amazing. And even though it's a fairy tale, and that's what I'm using right now as an example to you, you know, we have to understand that that's how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be able to forgive people for what they've done and move on. And I know it's hard, but we have to forgive, because if we don't, what did I say? The word of God says, and it's most definite, that if you can't forgive, the Father won't forgive you. So how are we running to God and telling God, I need you to forgive me, and we can't forgive? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you have to forgive and tolerate foolishness. That's definitely not what I'm saying. You don't have to do that. And you don't have to put yourself in a place to tolerate the foolishness. You can let the person know, I'm not doing this with you. You know, my daughter, she's on here. She had me dying. She used a meme yesterday. And it was like, you know, this is why, it was something about, this is why I'm not going to believe you, or what you're saying is just totally crap. You know, and I'm saying it the nice way. Because sometimes people need to understand that you can't just treat me the way you want to treat me and think that you're going to prosper. So, with that being said, we just have to be mindful that forgiveness is really big, it's very strong, and it has to happen. And if somebody doesn't want to be forgiving to you for something that you've done, you know what? If you tried to make amends, you've gone to your brother and your sister in love, and you've done what you needed to do, it's time to move on. It's just time to move all the way on and be done with it. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not seeing what I want to see. And just move all the way on with your life and be blessed. You know, I always like to say one of my little favorite things, and it's not that I speak too many languages, but I definitely love to say, you know, vayos con Dios, and serve the Lord. You know, peace out. I'm done with you. Like, we can't keep going over the same thing over and over again. And if it ain't going to heal in your heart, I can't make it heal. We can't make anybody forgive. We can't make anybody, you know, want to just get to the place where they're like, okay, I'm good. You know, okay, I'm going to let this go. Some people don't like to let stuff go. Some people like to hold you till you say, oh, I'm sorry 120 times. Because I had to let somebody know, you know what? I'm not apologizing anymore. I'm not. I'm done. I have to forgive myself. I have to move on, and I have to live. So my advice for you today, and thanks for the good question, Chanel, is yes, it's not healthy. I'm sorry, guys. The sun is so real. It is definitely not healthy to take all the blame. But for me, it just works. It works for me because it's not really about the other person owning up to what they've done. It's definitely about them owning up to God, to what they've done. Because we already know. We already had the conversation. As people with one another, we'll have the conversation, we'll deal with it, and we'll move on. But what has to happen is you have to just be so content with, even if they don't never understand that their actions were that caused the cause and effect, it don't matter because God knows. And that's what people fail to realize. They don't want to give God the credit that he is due. They want to act like his word doesn't have as much power as it does, because it has a lot of power, and it has excellent power when it comes to being forgiving and being kind and being loving. You know, you have to definitely get to the place where you understand who God is and what he is doing, that you won't have any problems, you know, letting him take the wheel, so to speak. So today we're still talking about forgiveness. I think we'll be doing it next week as well, forgiveness with a few other things thrown in with your questions and with your comments, because you guys have great comments. But just remember, like on yesterday, we found out forgiveness is big. It enables us to live. It's powerful, and it gives you power. But the more and more that you are unforgiving, you give the enemy power over your life, and that's what you don't want. So would you rather give the enemy power over your life, or would you rather give God the power and all power? Because his power is 100%. It's 100 proof. It's going to get the job done, because nobody can deal with your enemy like God can. Nobody. So running around worrying whether or not you're going to see the person get it, that's not good, because that means you have malice in your heart. You know, you're definitely waiting for the ball to drop. So while you wait for the ball to drop, how many things were you supposed to accomplish that you didn't accomplish, that God put on your plate because you were so busy sitting around waiting for your brother or sister to get what was coming to them? That's just my question. So I'm going to throw it out there. I don't want to miss what God has for me, living in an unforgiving place, whether it be to myself or to another person. God's going to do everything that he needs to do because he's all powerful. Sometimes I think that we give Satan more credit than we give God. We give the enemy more credit. We allow the enemy to run around, run rampant, destroy our lives, because he's seeking whom he can devour. And when he starts devouring stuff up, we get excited. I've never seen so many people so happy when people are in turmoil, or when people's lives are jacked up, that they feel some kind of joy in that. I want everybody to live in happiness and live in peace. I don't want anybody having their lives torn apart, stressed out, broke, busted, and disgusted. That's not how this thing is supposed to go. That's not how dominion was even set up for us. You know, we are living in the heavenly realm. People are like, oh, well, you know, no, we're not. This is just earth. No, as in earth as it is in heaven. We're living in a type of heaven. There are 3 realms. There's the earthly realm, there's the spiritual realm, and then there's heaven, the top. The 3rd heaven is where Jesus is. And if you think I'm joking, look it up. Look it up. We are living in heaven on earth. So therefore, with that being said, we have to take advantage of all that he's put here for us. and make sure that we know that our time is precious and it is valuable. So I want you guys to have a good day. Know that I love you. It is 8:01, and I think I need some fruit in my life. And I think I'm going to go do that. I think I'm going to go get me some fruit, and that's going to be what I have today. And just be blessed. Be blessed. And I'm guaranteeing you enjoy this beautiful day. Right now it's beautiful because it's only 76 degrees where I'm at. Yes. When it hits 80, pray for a sister. Pray for me because I'm not the summer type of person. So pray for me. I'm not looking forward to June 21st. I'm not looking forward to this summer because I think this summer is going to be a hot one. But guess what? I'm going to do what I can to stay as cool as I can because I still have life and I have the ability to breathe. So as long as I can breathe and I can walk and I can talk, God is able. But I'm telling you, Father God, I don't know. I wish you would just give us spring longer than anything else. So have a blessed day. Know that I love you. Today is Thursday, so I'll see you at 4 p.m. for Courageous Faith, and we'll be still talking about, you know, the business owner and the things that the business owner should do. And I have a couple things that I didn't get to give you yesterday on owning a franchise that I will definitely do today. You will not get a mom and son video today. My son has a full day today, so hopefully his day will be great. He's supposed to be going fishing, so I hope that he does that and he does it effectively. I hope I didn't put the surprise out there because he does watch my show, my son. So that's what he's supposed to do today. So we will not be doing our mom and son playground edition until Friday to figure out if we're going to be boxing people up at the playground. So just remember, ladies and gentlemen, like I told everyone yesterday afternoon when we came back for our mom and son video, please talk to your daughters, please talk to your sons, starting as early as when they can walk, about hitting. Because, you know, those behaviors carry over into these toxic relationships that turn domestic. Because these little girls at this playground yesterday, I'm so tickled, I'm smiling. But I was very annoyed that they thought they can just butt the line on the playground of the little boys and just push them and try to hit them because they were taught that, oh, boys aren't going to hit you back. But like I said yesterday, ladies, get your daughters, get your sons, because somebody's not teaching their children not to hit girls because they're seeing mommy get beat up, or they're seeing mommy run over and hit daddy, but daddy didn't hit nobody back. But you ran up on this playground and you hit somebody and that little boy took and knocked you out. So please remember to talk to our sons and our daughters about, you know, good use of the playground and definitely keeping our hands to ourselves. Because that is something that the little girls are doing because they're watching the women do and the young adults. So let's stop doing that. So have a blessed day. Know that I love you. It is a beautiful day outside. I'm going to put on my red lip that I should have had on before the camera rolled. And I'm just going to have a good day with me and my beautiful red sweater. So have a good day and enjoy yourselves. And I'll see you guys at 4 p.m.